Hello again. In the previous video I showed you how the terrace or little street in front of the house is carved and what measurements they should more or less have in order to look realistic. And before we completely would carve the front of the house terrace and the sides, we need to count on the fact that we need the three supports. Three support for the overhang. There's an overhang, as you can see here, for the roof, and we need to make three supports, which I will make in this case from a piece of, I think it is poplar as well. This is from firework, from Chinese firework, which I found this in the street. I found lots of them and I thought they would do a good job. You could use them for modelism and things like that because they're that small. And in order to know the inclination and the length of each piece, I made a template by eyeballing it. And as you can see, it's a little bit too the roof is a little bit too much down. So to adjust that, it should be lifted a little bit. It's a cardboard roof made of cardboard. I also showed that in a previous video. And our template I just made, it's very easy. You just put a piece of cardboard there, for example this piece, put it there with your street thickness already there installed. And I've laying around the other piece which is here, but I don't see it now. And then you put it there and then you just mark the inclination and the length, and you before you know you have something that's called a template. And as you can see, this template is fitting nicely. I will have to look at that way. Let me see. Yes, look. You can see that our template fits well. Then like that we know we can mark the spot where it will be glued down to the terrace stones, and it should be glued down there where it will be glued down. It should be flat and not carved. That's why it's so important to make these supports now. So this template will help us to know the right measurement. The length is obviously, this is the length. I already traced that line, and this is the inclination. At the bottom part it should just be square. It should be square. This part, the bottom with this part, should be square. Now as you might notice, our firewood piece of poplar is a little bit dirty and it has some weathering. And at the end, what I do is I take a little metal file. You could use some sandpaper, and I move the file in one direction. It is a very smooth file, very fine one, and I just move it in the same direction, not like this because then you make scratches, just like that. You could use a plane as well, but I think this is a bit safer, on the safer side, as this doesn't remove too much. Like that we make that the poplar is easier to be seen, because otherwise it's hard to mark when it's brownish. So That's finished. And now we use our template, taking that this is 90 degrees. I should know that I had to cut off a piece of it, which is here in my finger, and it is ugly, as you can see. I cut it off at 90 degrees using a little square, and I cut it off, and then you put it on a piece of scrap wood thick enough, like an inch thick, and then you eyeball it and you look if it's really square. And you do that on both sides, and you move the file in one direction and make that it is square. And then the next step, taking knowing that this is square, when we made it square, we just put our template onto our piece of poplar. Moment, I need some more light. Onto our piece of poplar we put the template, and we make that the side is following the line. And then we mark the inclination. And that's all. This template is only used to know the length and the inclination. And moment, as you can see, let me see if I can see it. Yes, here it is. We mark the inclination line. Now we mark at the sides a little marking line, and we take the square, look, marking line at the side, at both sides, and we use our square and trace a square line there on that position. We do that from both sides. Then we connect those lines at the back. At the back we need to connect those lines. I just connect those lines. And now we are at the moment, yes, that we can take a little clamp, Chinese one, and we can saw it at the inclination which we just marked. Clamp the piece that needs to be cut firmly down onto a table or a workbench, and we take a little metal saw and then very accurately we try to saw alongside the trace line, mark line. You can leave like some tenths of a millimeter, you can leave extra, and then later you could adjust it with a metal file. Well, we cut it off at the inclination and take away this part, we don't need it, and we start to adjust it a little bit till we reach the lines. Don't take more material than needed. And I think it's well done. We reached the lines. That's more or less okay. We now will dry fit it, dry without glue, to see if it's really that good, that well made as we think. Might be a dissolution. You never know. That's why we will fit it, and then we will see if there's any gap. Yeah, that's how it should look like into the position, and then we should glue it in that way. Now I think this is quite ugly, as if we would leave it just this. What you could do is you could work onto it with a knife, and make it look older, because this looks way too new. But I have thought about a different alternative, which is, I will look it up. I will make, I will try to make, let me see if you can see it, this shape here, this one. While the other ones, they are, the other ones which are here and here, they are too difficult in this scale. I won't try that even. I will just try to make this profile, because it would make it a little bit more aesthetical. I will look at it once more and then decide if I will do it. It's how I work. I work by I just observe what I'm doing, and I think it's, yes, it is ugly. If we would just leave it like that, it's too ugly. No, it's too thick, too massive, and even if I would weather it with a knife at the corners, it still is way too unesthetical. So what we are going to do is we'll copy the profile which I just showed you, this one where my pointing finger is, onto this, and I will use the template just in case, and we can mark on the template the lines in order to know where our profile starts. And we want it, of course, to look, we want it to look realistic, and they have to be all even. That's why I mark these lines onto the template. Then the template is used as a guide, as a reference to know where we will make our cuts. These cuts are done with a chisel or a knife. They can be done as well. And then I copy those lines to all sides. And I do that by eye, estimating more or less what is square. That's why I work from both sides. Okay, now I marked all around it, as you can see, 90 degrees. And the next stage is to take a chisel or a knife. I take a chisel in this case, and I would, at 45 degrees, will work both ways and cut away. Moment, let me think. Is this wise? I'm not sure. No, we will do it at 90 degrees, perpendicular. We mark that line with our chisel around, all around. We don't put too much pressure on it, just that the knife goes inside the chisel. We go all around it. So we went all around it, and we do the same at the other side. Perpendicularly, 90 degrees down. Later on, this wood will be stained. Maybe we go a little bit with a metal brush over it and first give it a washing with some tint black paint or ink, tint ink. But just a washing, that means that it has to be thinned quite a lot. Okay, we went all around it with a chisel. You probably can't see it on the camera, but I went around it with a chisel. Now we can do the 45 degrees angle and cut away the wood which is left. Let me see if I'm doing it correctly. No, we should do it from the other side, of course. Remove all excess. At 45 degrees. Okay, we do the same at the other side, all around. It would help if you use a bit broader chisel, because then you can do it in one cut. Okay. Next step is that we either cut away, or we can cut it away or file it away. I'm thinking I should give it a try with a knife, but it might be dangerous. Maybe you should just cut it away, because you can cut yourself. What I'm doing is I just cut away a little bit. A little bit, and the rest I will do with a file. We cut away very carefully in order to not cut away something we don't want to cut away. Okay, we just cut around all sides, which is more or less resulting well. The next step is, as I said, we will file it. And it looks already a bit the way I would like it to look. We make it slightly tapered. And now, the next step is we take a file and very carefully, we adjust what we just cut, make it look better. These poles, supporting poles, you see them lots in the Balkan, in wooden houses. But I guess they had them everywhere in Europe in ancient times. Very carefully we file away a little bit, but not too much. Really, with great care you should do this. Okay. Then we check if everything is okay, and when we see some imperfection you can still go alongside. And now we got this effect, and this looks much better. Let me see if you can see it. This looks already much better than it was originally. Now you could still continue till it gets like perfect, but it shouldn't be too perfect. And in order to make it now like finished, we could cut a groove here. I'm not sure if I'm going to do this. Should I cut a groove, yes or no? I could cut a groove, but I might ruin it as well. Let me see how it looks like on the house now. So we just take the house, and we just put it where it more or less has to come, and then we'll just judge how it looks like. We'll just look, and then we judge it that way. Let me see. And I think it looks already like, yes, it would be enough. The groove isn't needed, so we won't risk making the groove because we're not we don't have like 300 years of life. Nah, it falls. Just want you to show how it would look like when it's glued into place. It looks okay to me. So I don't think I will cut the groove. No need for a groove. So that's the way how the supporting poles are made. and I might cut a groove or not. I'm still not sure how it would look like. I think it is enough like that. And that's how a supporting pole is made, and later it will be glued in place. But we should still not forget, note that you shouldn't carve the place where it's going to be glued down, because otherwise it's not flat anymore. Hope I inspired you to make your own model house, and have a nice evening. Goodbye.